Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today's the 20th of May 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Monday's morning session where we're going to have a look at the markets, a few of the charts, a few of those that we looked at on Friday, just to see how they're performing, how they're getting along. And as always, before we do that, before we look into the charts, let's quickly have a look into the risk disclaimer. So the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Okay, so now then, well, let's quickly jump into the charts. Now the first one I want to touch on here is DAX. Now this is what I was talking about last Friday, basically, yes, we did have a nice push. Then on Friday we did see this one opening with a gap to the downside here, but kind of still stayed above this downside, this long-term downside resistance line that has been running here from the highs of January 2018. So for now, guys, of course, this is still kind of looking somewhat more bullish than bearish, but ideally, as you can see by the arrow that I've got here, ideally we would like to see a nice good push above this key area of resistance around the 12,320 zone. Of course, certainly another push above the 12,350 could just confirm that further acceleration to the upside. The only thing is that even though I do have my arrow here up until the 12,596 zone, approximately there, so in a way you could round it up towards the 12,600, which is near the highs of the 28th of August last year. But again, for us, we're going to keep it short and simple. We're going to play it safe first. If we see a push above the 12,320 zone, what we're going to target here is, of course, these highs that we saw here in the first days of May. This will be very interesting to see if it actually travels all the way here, and it will be very interesting. Will we actually see a higher level here, a higher high in May? And if we do, then we may see, like I said, such a move could open the path towards this level that I was talking about, the 12,596, or in a way, let's round it up towards the 12,600, so around that area. But again, before we could consider higher levels, we need to see that nice good push above the 12,320 first. In terms of the downside, well, the downside is going to be a very short one for us, because as you can see by the arrow here, even if we see the index traveling back below this long-term downside resistance line and dropping below the 12,145 level, this of course could result in further declines. The only thing is that the downside could be limited due to this this medium-term upside support line taken from the lowest point of December last year. So if we see such a move, if we see a hit of this upside support line, then yep, we'll just stay put. We'll just continue observing it, because for us, ideally, let's say, in order to consider further declines in the near term, ideally we would like to see, and let me just put an arrow here very quickly, a drop not only below this upside support line, but also below this key area of resistance right here at 11,850, and only then we will aim for much lower areas in the near term. Of course, also this area here, 11,850, acted as a very good area of support here back on the 13th of May, and if we see a drop below this, this would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and also place the index below the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. So that's why for now, guys, in terms of the downside, keep your eyes on the 12,145 level, and in terms of the upside, the 12,320 zone. These are our potential breaking points in order to consider a further directional move. Jumping into a few pairs now, very quickly. So USDCAD. Now, okay, I talked about this one throughout the whole of last week, and basically it's a mess. And last week on Friday, we were already pushing above this level here, nicely above the 1.3480. We did have our 4-hour candle close. Then it was flirting with the 135 zone, but as you can see, never managed to close it. And this is what I was talking about, because for us, let's say, to consider further acceleration to the upside, we need that nice good close here above this 135 level. The only thing is, another thing that I wanted to mention as well is, of course, as you can see already, we do have a range here now forming. So roughly between the 1.3370 zone, approximately there, 1.3370, and the 1.35 area. So in a way, we could see this one moving sideways here for now. From the more of a, let's say, shorter term perspective, of course, we could see this one traveling lower because its activity right now is slightly annoying. We could see something like this happening first, where we could see maybe a small retracement back to the upside, a test of the 1.3450, and then maybe another sell-off, maybe towards the 1.34 zone, or just slightly below that we do have the 1.3390 zone. Again, also a possible test of this lower side of this little range here could be possible as well, but again, we need to see that those breaks here below these levels, the 1.34 level and the 1.3390 first, before we could consider the 1.3370. If this, of course, reverses suddenly back to the upside here, now we're going to remain neutral, to be honest. For us now, looking at this activity, for us now, in order to consider much higher levels, or at least some higher levels in the near term, we would like to see a nice good break and a close of the 4-hour candle above the 1.35 level before we could get maybe comfortable with the 1.3522 or even the 1.3565 zone. And just to kind of show you what that level was here in the past, that was a very good area of support here back on the 24th of December, on the 26th of December, and also on the 1st of January. That got broken only on the 3rd of January. So this previous area of good support could now play the role of a good area of resistance. But then again, before we consider higher levels, we need to see that nice good break and a close of the 4-hour candle above the 1.35 level. So keep your eyes on this one, guys. Jumping into GBPUSD very quickly. So it traveled lower. Of course, it was a very bad week for GBPUSD, and you can see that how strong was this sell-off, and of course it now reached also this key area of support near the actually I need to jump back into the 4-hour chart, it'll be easier here. It reached its support near the 1.2710. This morning we already are seeing this little bounce back. In a way, even though it's still sitting below the pivot, to be honest, we could see maybe a bit more upside here, because given the fact that it's very oversold here, even on the 4-hour chart, we could see this one traveling a little bit higher, potentially hitting this key area of resistance between the roughly between the 1.2772 and the 1.2785. If it holds, then we may see another leg of selling, which could bring the rate back towards the 1.2710 zone, a break of which could send the pair a little bit lower towards the 1.2670. And to show you what that level was in the past, there was basically this low here, this drop that we saw here on the 15th of January. So good potential target, good potential support level, but again, we need to see some rejections here near some of these key resistance levels. But if, of course, these resistance levels fail to resist, then yep, we could see maybe a break, a nice push higher here, but the upside could still be limited due to this little tentative downside resistance line, short-term tentative downside resistance line taken from the high of May, this May, and we could see maybe the rate stalling around there somewhere, maybe around this 128.65 level. But to be honest, if that gets broken, then yep, of course course we will target higher levels, as you, well, logical, but for now, guys, still, as long as we're going to still be trading below this downside resistance line, we may see another leg of selling if, like I said, if that downside resistance line continues to hold. But for now, guys, from the very short-term perspective, maybe for today, keep your eyes on the slightly higher levels here above this pivot, even though, like I said, it is trading slightly below the pivot right now, but it's very close to it, so in a way it could overshoot it, could travel towards the 1.2771, 72. It's also near its R1, today's R1, good potential target, and then we'll take it from there. See what it actually, does it want to stall here? Does it want to retrace back down, or does it actually want to continue pushing further up? It would be great to see this one pushing higher a little bit, maybe, like I said, testing this downside resistance line and then selling off. But then again, the market never does what we want it to do. So basically, for now, guys, keep your eyes on this potential scenario. If this doesn't travel above the pivot, if it doesn't travel all the way here, then keep your eyes on, of course, on the 1.2710. A break below that would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and this is where we will target the 12670 zone. So keep your eyes on that, guys. Jumping into a very interesting pair right now, AUDJPY, and this is something that I wanted to quickly show you. So I covered this one on Friday as well, and I was telling you that as long as we're kind of still trading below this downside resistance line taken from the high of the 17th of April, we will remain somewhat bearish. But if we see a break above this downside resistance line, then yep, that could be good news for the bulls. The only thing is that for better confirmation, we would like to see a nice good push, a break and a close above this 76.32 level. Ideally, that would be great to see something like that and push above this. And this way, the pair would open the path for itself towards slightly higher levels, like the 76.77 approximately there. But slightly above that, we do have the 77 zone itself, 77.10 approximately there. So that's why. Actually, let me just adjust a few of these levels. There we go. This is the little spike that I'm talking about, basically, and of course slightly above that we do have another good potential area of resistance near this 77.2425, something like that. So keep your eyes on this, guys. Again, like I said, for now, from the very short-term perspective, we're going to keep an eye on the 76.32. A nice good break above this could potentially lead this one a little bit higher towards the levels that I've just mentioned. But if this suddenly reverses back down and drops back below this downside resistance line, well, this is going to be our little neutral territory, to be honest. We're going to continue observing the price action here. The only thing is that for us now, what we'll be looking for, and you probably understood it already by my chart, we need to see that break here below the 75.30, and ideally a close above that of the 4-hour candle as well. That would be nice. So a break below the 75.30 could lead the pair towards the 74.50. And just to show you what that level was here in the past, the 74, where's that level, 74, there we go, 74.50. we need to kind of drag it all the way back here in history, and actually you need to jump it back into a daily chart on this one. There we go. Right, there we go, boom. This is the low of the 5th of, near the lows of the 5th of July 2016. So you can see how important that level is. But again, before we can consider such a drop towards that area, we would like to see a push below the 75.30 zone. So keep your eyes on this one. And the last pair I wanted to quickly touch on, of course, that kind of drives us into Euro Aussie. So the you can see that Euro Aussie is taking a hit. So yep, the Aussie is slightly strengthening, and yep, the Euro Aussie is taking a nice hit here. Opened with a huge gap here to the downside this morning, and now it's currently balancing near this key area of support, which previously I talked about this level previously at this 1.6117 zone approximately there. So I talked about this one around in the beginning of last week on a Monday, actually, where I was telling you guys, if we see a nice good push, a break above this, then yep, it could travel higher. But so now basically it acted as now acting as a nice area of support. To be honest, it could continue traveling lower a little bit. We do have this nice upside support line here taken from the lows of the 19th of April, something like, or actually 18th of April. But what could happen here as well is something like this as well, where we could test the upside support line, but if it fails to break below it, then this could be a nice bouncing ground for the pair, maybe to push back above this 1.6117 level, maybe travel all the way back towards the 1.6186, and then we'll just take it from there, see what it wants to do. Actually, maybe we'll reverse and travel back down towards this upside support line. For us, let's say, to consider lower areas, ideally we would like to see a drop below this little area here near the 1.65 zone. So let me just bring this highlighted area here. So basically a drop and a nice close of the 4-hour candle below this level could potentially lead towards further declines. We could maybe see this one traveling towards the psychological 160 level, or even this 200 EMA, which, by the way, we could probably approach this this area, the 160. Let's say if we see this by the time this, let's say, drops here and travels lower until it kind of figures out what it wants to do here. And like I said, yeah, if it does want to travel lower, then yep, we may see a test of this 160 area, or even this 200 EMA, which could, like I said, approach this level right here. So for now, guys, that's the game plan. It is balancing near the 1.6115, 17, something like that. But it may travel a little bit lower here. Like I said, we do have this nice upside support line, and then we'll just take it from there, see what it wants to do with it. If it wants to break it, then yep, we'll target slightly lower areas. If it sees a nice rebound here, then we will aim for a bit higher here, but we're not going to go drastically towards these last week's highs, because we're just going to see how the whole price action is going to perform around here. Maybe we'll have a nice strengthening of the Aussie this week, so keep your eyes on that one, guys. Okay, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and if you want to join me later on at my traders tea time, and that's, as always, 13:15 GMT time, we'll have a look at some of these maybe instruments, some of the new maybe pairs and indices. So yep, but as always, guys, I hope you have a wonderful trading day, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.